Today, we will use a scientific perspective to explore the complex truth behind meteorological events. According to the latest news from the CBC News website, on February 4th, a severe winter storm, accompanied by the worst snowstorm in 20 years, is hitting Atlantic Canada. As of Monday, February 6th, this snowstorm has caused damage to Nova Scotia. Traffic in the southeastern region of the province was completely paralyzed. Tens of thousands of residents suffered from widespread power outages, and major damage was caused to building structures. The storm began on Sunday and was centered in the Cape Breton region of Nova Scotia. Data showed that the snow depth in Grand Grosse, a town in the southeastern part of Cape Breton Island, has reached 106 centimeters, breaking the record for the highest snow accumulation in a single snowstorm since meteorological records were kept in the area. The total thickness approaches 150 centimeters in some areas. The entire Cape Breton region has entered a state of emergency for 7 days. The city government has been given special powers to close airports and public transportation systems when necessary, order people to evacuate, and expropriate private property to assist in disaster relief. The Transportation Department stated that all roads in the area are severely icy and snowy, making driving extremely dangerous. In just 2 days on the weekend, more than 30 traffic accidents occurred. The accident resulted in minor injuries to at least 5 people. A large number of vehicles were trapped on both sides of the road, forcing drivers to sleep in their cars to tide over the difficulties. The work of cleaning up the traffic arteries is being carried out in full force, but due to the severe weather conditions, the road conditions continue to deteriorate. Thank you for liking, leaving comments, subscribing and turning on the little bell. We will update every day. In addition, strong winds and heavy snowfall caused power outages to more than 30,000 homes in southeastern Nova Scotia. The Provincial Electric Power Company dispatched nearly 1,000 electricians to the disaster-stricken areas for emergency repairs, but more than 5,000 users were still without power on Monday. The company said it cannot estimate the restoration of power supply to most areas until the weather improves. Coastal areas were affected by strong waves, and all port shipping was suspended. Halifax International Airport is closed and all domestic and international flights are cancelled. All elementary and secondary schools in Cape Breton are closed due to concerns about building collapse. Public facilities and equipment also issued warnings, indicating that excessive snow pressure on roofs seriously threatened building safety. The Meteorological Department predicts that the storm will continue for more than 24 hours, and the final snow accumulation in the northeastern coastal zone of the province is expected to exceed the 50-centimeter mark, setting a new high. This is considered the worst winter storm to hit Atlantic Canada since the historic White Swan blizzard in 2000. Meteorological experts call on residents in coastal areas to stay indoors as much as possible, avoid snowy areas, and pay attention to authoritative weather warning information at all times. Blizzards hit Canada's eastern coast frequently, and the reasons behind them are complicated. First of all, the area is close to the North Atlantic and is greatly affected by the oceanic climate. Sea temperatures in the North Atlantic are usually cooler, allowing the air to easily acquire enough moisture. When the warm and moist air enters the interior and encounters cold air, it is easy to produce snowstorms. Secondly, the area is located at the intersection of wind belts in the mid-latitudes. In winter, Cold air from the Arctic often moves southward and intersects with warm and humid air brought from the Pacific Ocean and the Gulf of Mexico, forming an obvious warm and cold air interface, which is the basis for snowstorms. Create conditions for occurrence. More importantly, this area is located at a high latitude. In winter, continental polar cold air easily moves southward to this area, where it encounters marine moist air and produces snowstorms. What cannot be ignored is that this area is located on the east side of the Rocky Mountains. Affected by the topography, the cold air from the inland cools and humidifies with the help of the uplift of the mountains after passing through the Rocky Mountains. After entering the ocean area, it mixes with the warm and humid air. The collision resulted in a large-scale, high-intensity snowstorm. In addition, affected by climate anomalies such as La Niña or El Niño, the contrast between warm and cold air in the region intensifies, creating favorable conditions for snowstorms. Abnormal climate changes the air circulation and increases the intersection of warm and cold air, leading to more snowstorms. It must be mentioned that due to the influence of global warming, the evaporation of water vapor in the area has increased, providing sufficient water vapor for the snowstorm. At the same time, the decrease in Arctic sea ice makes it easier for polar cold air to move southward, increasing the chance of encountering warm and humid air, so snowstorms are also increasing. Judging from digital data, the frequency and trend of blizzard attacks along the eastern coast of Canada have intensified. The first is that the average annual number of snowstorm days is generally on the rise. Taking Ottawa, Ontario, as an example, the average annual number of snowstorm days between 1961 and 1990 was 29.8 days, rising to 32.1 days between 1991 and 2020. The average annual number of snowstorm days in Halifax, Nova Scotia, increased from 32.4 days between 1961 and 1990 to 34.7 days between 1991 and 2020. The average number of snowstorm days per year in New Brunswick has also increased by 2 to 3 days in the past 30 years. Second, the duration of a single snowstorm has increased. The duration of a snowstorm in Ottawa increased from an average of 12.2 hours between 1961 and 1990 to 13.6 hours between 1991 and 2020. The average duration of a snowstorm in Halifax increased from 13.4 hours to 14.1 hours. The increased duration means each storm lasts longer. More importantly, the frequency and intensity of major snowstorms have increased. Taking Ottawa as an example, the number of snowstorms with snow depths exceeding 30 centimeters across the city has increased significantly, from an annual average of 1.2 between 1961 to 1990 to an annual average of 2.3 between 1991 to 2020. The number of snowstorm days with maximum daily snow accumulation exceeding 30 centimeters also increased from the previous annual average of 0.9 days to 1.4 days. Additionally, there is an increase in the number of high-impact snowstorms that cause traffic paralysis and severe infrastructure damage. The frequency of closures at Halifax International Airport due to snowstorms has nearly doubled, from 8% in 1961 to 1990 to 14% in 1991 to 2020. There are an average of 2 to 3 snowstorms every year that seriously affect traffic. It must be mentioned that the frequency of snowstorms has increased in spring and autumn. This is mainly due to climate warming causing the snowstorm season to extend from both ends. More early spring or late fall snowstorms bring greater disaster risks along the eastern seaboard. When individuals encounter a snowstorm, they should make some preparations in order to effectively avoid danger. First of all, it is necessary to closely monitor the blizzard warning issued by the meteorological department and understand the path, severity, and possible duration of the blizzard in advance. Use this information to evaluate the risk level of your location and prepare for responses. If the risk is greater, you should consider evacuating to an evacuation site as soon as possible. Secondly, prepare emergency supplies, including sufficient non-perishable food, drinking water, first aid medicines, flashlights, batteries, matches, thick duvets and blankets, etc. These supplies can last for at least 3 to 5 days of survival. At the same time, fully charge mobile phones and other devices to ensure that they can be used for a period of time after losing external power. What's more important is to close the doors and windows tightly inside the house to minimize the entry of outdoor cold air. If necessary, you can use blankets to block the gaps under the doors and windows. Turn on the indoor heating, wet the water pipes or cover them with insulation material to prevent them from freezing and bursting. Store some firewood in case of an extended power outage. Also, if you are trapped outside or in your car, stay warm at all times. You can start the vehicle and let the engine idle to use waste heat for heating, and open the windows every once in a while for ventilation to prevent carbon monoxide poisoning. If you are in the wild, you can use local materials to make a fire to keep warm. In the meantime, avoid traveling. If you really need to go out for a walk, choose to walk on the road and inform your family or friends of the route and approximate time. Wear hats, scarves, gloves, and other cold-proof items throughout the entire process. You may have to face extremely low visibility due to wind and snow during the journey. At this time, you should choose to take refuge in the nearest building and wait for the weather to improve. It must be mentioned that the end time of the snowstorm must be determined based on the continuous weather monitoring of the meteorological department. Don't go out easily until you get confirmed information. 2 or 3 days after the snowstorm, you still need to pay attention to secondary disasters such as building collapse and tree collapse caused by ice breakage. What cannot be ignored is that people of different ages and physical conditions should take different protective measures. The elderly, the weak, the sick, the disabled and pregnant children should be evacuated to designated shelters first. People who are healthy can stock up on more emergency supplies at home to last for a longer period of time. When communities and city management departments encounter a snowstorm, they should make some preparations in order to effectively avoid danger. First of all, it is necessary to formulate a snowstorm emergency plan in advance and organize drills regularly. The plan should specify in detail the snowstorm classification, early warning standards, emergency team formation and task division, rescue material allocation, traffic control plan, people's refuge places, follow-up disaster assessment, etc. The public is regularly informed of the evacuation sites and designated shelters in the plan so that the public can understand in advance. Secondly, after receiving the yellow warning of the snowstorm, the emergency team went into standby mode, organized forces to check and prepare rescue supplies, merged the formations to do traffic control and road clearance. Livestock grazing in rural areas should take the initiative to return to the pen, and fishing boats return to the port, sheltered from the wind. Important places such as banks and shopping malls should also activate disaster preparedness plans and reinforce signboards and other structures. More importantly, when an orange or above warning is received, the emergency plan must be launched immediately. All emergency forces are involved in rescue, and priority is given to ensuring the normal operation of key units such as hospitals and train stations. At the same time, evacuation sites will be opened for stranded citizens to take shelter on the spot, and first aid supplies will be prepared and transported to designated evacuation sites. What cannot be ignored is that the emergency department must organize police, firefighters, and volunteers to patrol and guard key areas. If people are trapped due to snowstorms, they must be rescued to safety in a timely manner. In addition, real-time messages such as evacuation locations and traffic status are sent to people in distress, and the evacuation situation is checked regularly. At the same time, within 1 to 2 days after the snowstorm, secondary disaster investigation and prevention work must be immediately launched. Organize efforts to clean roads, inspect houses, remove fallen trees blocking roads, and repair municipal facilities such as water, power, and internet connections. And continue to communicate with the masses and provide follow-up assistance. More importantly, after the snowstorm is over, it is necessary to promptly take inventory of disaster losses, assess the situation of disaster relief work, and summarize experiences and lessons to continuously improve the risk avoidance and rescue plan. At the same time, it is necessary to strengthen the construction of meteorological disaster risk assessment, improve protection capabilities in a targeted manner, and ensure the operation of the city and the safety of public life and property. In fact, snowstorms can also cause various secondary disasters, which must be prevented. First, there are building collapses. During the snowstorm, a large amount of snow accumulates on the temporary structures of the house. Combined with the pressure and vibration of the storm on the building's exterior wall, the load-bearing structure of the building will be damaged, deformed, and eventually collapse. Some poorly built civilian houses and restaurants are most vulnerable to damage. Secondly, there are fallen trees. A large amount of wet snow will also accumulate on the trees and condense into ice. Together with strong winds, the crowns of the trees will break or the trees will be blown down directly, blocking roads and even injuring people. Large area tree lodging is most typical in dense forest areas and urban green belts. In addition, pay attention to damage to overhead lines and pipe networks. Under the influence of snow pressure and strong winds, telephone poles and cables often break, causing widespread power outages. Snowstorms can also directly cause pipe network rupture, and melting snow and water seepage can cause the buried pipe network to fail, causing water, gas, and other pipe network failures. We must mention ice dam breaches and floods. The ice dam formed in the middle section of the river breaks when the temperature rises in spring, causing flash floods to flood the downstream areas. Drainage systems in some areas can also cause waterlogging when snow melts. Even more terrifying is the avalanche. Mountainous areas after a snowstorm are often covered with deep snow. When the snow mass on a steep slope becomes unstable, it can quickly fall and evolve into a high-speed and high-energy avalanche, causing serious damage to people and facilities. What's more serious is traffic paralysis. The deep snow on the road after the blizzard affects the efficiency of clearing obstacles. At the same time, the ice makes the road extremely slippery, seriously delaying traffic. Traffic jams and traffic accidents also occur from time to time, posing great difficulties to rescue operations. In terms of dealing with snowstorm disasters, some countries have done a better job and are worth learning from. First is the United States. Blizzards occur frequently in the northeastern United States. The National Weather Service has set up a developed blizzard monitoring and early warning system and uses a blizzard prediction model to more accurately predict the path, time, and intensity of blizzards. Supporting this is an emergency management system with high response quality. Each region has formulated emergency plans for snowstorm disasters and conducted regular drills. Before a snowstorm comes, people who are able to evacuate will take the initiative to evacuate, and the government will open greenhouses to house the homeless during the snowstorm. Volunteers and emergency response teams will patrol to help trapped vehicles and set up roadblocks on traffic arteries. All agencies are equipped with backup generators after a snowstorm. An efficient power restoration and road clearing system will be quickly put into operation. What I cannot but mention is Japan. Japan has also formulated relatively complete snow damage prevention and control laws and major disaster response laws. All local governments have standardized snow and cold prevention systems, adopt a strategy of equal emphasis on engineering protection and non-engineering measures, and invest a lot of resources in infrastructure reinforcement and public education and publicity. Japanese people have a relatively good understanding of disaster risk awareness and disaster prevention capabilities, and will take various measures to deal with possible snowstorm disasters before the snow season. In fact, some new technologies have already appeared on the scene when it comes to dealing with snowstorms. First of all, it is the intelligent measurement technology of snow depth. This technology uses drones equipped with laser radar to measure the depth of snow on the ground, and then combines it with satellite remote sensing technology to determine the distribution of snow pressure, assess the safety of buildings and facilities, and provide a basis for emergency evacuation. This technology has high measurement accuracy and wide range, and is an important auxiliary means to prevent and control snow disasters. Secondly, it is the snow condition three-dimensional visualization platform technology. This technology can collect heterogeneous snow data from multiple sources such as weather radar echoes, AWS automatic stations, and cameras, and use VR and high-definition three-dimensional animation to instantly reproduce the snowstorm process in a region or road section, and conduct quantitative analysis in the next few hours. Refined predictions make anti-snow decisions more scientific. What is even more advanced is the improvement of snow-resistant protective materials and equipment. New snow-resistant materials such as superhydrophobic, ice-repellent and waterproof concrete and hydrophobic anti-icing coatings developed in recent years make building structures more resistant to ice and snow erosion. The application of snow-repellent agents, high-efficiency snow-melting salts, etc. has also greatly improved the efficiency of road de-icing and reduced the risk of subsequent snow disasters. What must be mentioned is Blizzard's drone technology for emergency supplies transportation. This technology uses industrial-grade multi-rotor drones with a load of more than 15 kilograms. It can independently identify the best route during a snowstorm, quickly arrive at the disaster area with emergency supplies, and rescue trapped people, greatly shortening the rescue time window. What is worth promoting is the vehicle road cooperative early warning technology used in blizzards. This technology can predict traffic delays and accident-prone sections that vehicles may cause due to heavy snowfall, conduct advance control, and proactively issue speed reduction reminders to vehicles on the road section to guide safer driving and ensure road traffic safety. These high and new technologies provide the possibility for more refined and intelligent responses to snowstorm disasters, and their application prospects are broad. It is believed that in the near future, these technologies will be further promoted and applied in depth, allowing countries to more effectively and proactively prevent and resolve the hazards of snowstorm disasters. Thank you for liking, leaving a message, subscribing and turning on the little bell. We will update the latest news from around the world every day. Continue to use a scientific perspective to explore the complex truth behind meteorological events.